Y'all, this is going to be a good one. My time, let's see, it is 9:40 and I have to end promptly at a certain time. Talk about timing. The revelation that you're going to get is going to change your life forever. I'm telling you. There are some things that you can hear. Have you ever scrolled through like a TikTok or a YouTube short and it resonated really deeply within you and you didn't even know it would? You're just scrolling. Let me just tell you to stop the scroll right here and just allow your heart to be open, because sometimes it can be so skeptical that it steals us from the revelation that is meant to set us free. Okay, y'all, my name is Miriam. I'm your Christian clinical coach, coaching you out of grief and into greatness. God has great things in store for you, and many times we're more connected to our grief and not our greatness. So in this teaching, and I come live during the weekday, so that we can renew our minds and just understand purpose outside of pain. Okay, all right. So y'all, that being said, it's time to make an exit. Are you somebody that's been stuck in the same season? It's a new year, but it's the same last 5 years. It's the same last 50 years. And I'm going to be looking into two different screens at times because I'm streaming into the Facebook group, on Instagram, and on YouTube, y'all. All right. So just like there are 4 seasons, let me tell you, there are seasons in your life where change is supposed to happen. Just like there are 4 seasons, right? We have summer, we have fall, we have winter, we have spring. There are 4 seasons. And in those seasons, change happens. Why? Because it's supposed to. In the fall, we're approaching fall. Already the temperature has changed, right? Already leaves are starting to fall. You're going to see the colors change. After fall is winter. The temperature is going to drop even more. So there is a purpose to every season that we're in. So the key to maximizing the season that you're in is being sensitive to the time, because there are times and there are seasons. So being sensitive to the time also means being able to hear God's voice and be obedient to it. But many times we're not even hearing God's voice because we're angry with God or we even doubt his existence. So I came to encourage someone who's been in doubt, who's felt left out, who's been disappointed. Maybe you don't assign to being a Christian or a religion, and you're out here seeking some understanding, some purpose. Let me tell you that this video is for you, because it's going to help you shift out of pain and even understand why you've been stuck for far too long, y'all. Let me tell you that it is time to make an exit. You're not meant to just stay stuck in a season. Some of you, hey y'all, good morning, are experiencing the same last 5 years, the same last 10 years, the same last 50 years, but you don't have to stay stuck. Sometimes we're even thinking we're too old to make a difference. Amen. God is good. Y'all, I love the comments. Y'all can feel free to, to ask any questions and all of that, y'all. So sometimes we've been stuck in the same season for far too long. How many times have you approached, like we celebrate New Year and we calibrate ourselves to the new year and we come up with these goals, but 3 weeks in we fall short because those new habits are hard to calibrate ourselves to, that we end up throwing the towel. We end up throwing it in. So we've been stuck in the same season, even though you want to get unstuck. You've left your childhood home, but you're still experiencing it in your new house. Maybe you're single, maybe you have a new nuclear family, but there is the same outcome. You're experiencing some of the same issues from what you experienced in your childhood household. Some of you feel misunderstood. You feel neglected. Maybe you even neglect yourselves, and that's why you come up. It's like, okay, well, it's a new year. Let me try it again. But sometimes we end up throwing in the towel because doubt overtakes our development, or that the pain, emotional pain, not just the physical pain, because there's also a physical pain that comes with working out or with releasing certain things in our lives. There's a pain that comes with that sometimes the pain overpowers why we're even doing it to begin with. And that's why they always say with goals, you got to develop a very strong why. Like, why am I doing this? I need to remind myself, why am I even doing this? And it's so interesting because I'm reminded even of the children of Israel who left bondage but experienced bondage in the wilderness. So some of you are in a wilderness season that you've been in for far too long, but it's time for you to actually make an exit. You made an entrance. You left your house 50 years ago. You said, I'm never going to show back up here again unless I want to, only on my terms. Some of y'all don't go to certain family reunions because of just dysfunction and drama in the family. Some of you don't go to school reunions because of the drama, right? So there's some places that we leave that we don't want to go back to, but even though we've left, we're still in bondage. Hey y'all, we're still in bondage. And many times it has to do with pain. You can experience a pain so significant, y'all. I want to tell you that pain hurts so bad that until you prioritize healing, you will remain stuck. So some of you have actually experienced pain. When you really begin to think about why, like what is happening around you, just even be honest with yourself and take inventory. Do you like what you see and how you feel, even in your own house? I'm talking about your new house as an adult. Do you like what's happening in your relationships? And many times we focus on the person, but not this person, the one on the inside. And it really does take honesty and compassion to just take inventory, to see and to say and recognize, you know what, I really don't like what's happening. And the perfect thing with that, which is called awareness, is you can change. No matter how long you've been stuck in a certain pattern, patterns can change, and you're actually meant to, because to every season, there's also a time, and there's also purpose connected to that time. But if I only see the pain that is connected to the time, I won't see the purpose. And if I only see all that I see, I won't see all that there is to be seen. So when we even look again at the children of Israel, they began to relive that trauma in the wilderness, and it kept them there longer than they were supposed to be there, because there was a promised land that they were supposed to walk into. There is greatness that you're meant to walk into. But when we walked into that grief, or we experienced that grief and that trauma, we've been stuck there. But you're meant to get back up again. You're meant to walk again, because you are great. There are great things inside of you. Some of you wonder, am I special? Yes, you are. When the enemy wants to destroy us, it's through deception. That we end up even recreating the same trauma that we left behind. And we're creatures of habit. So we'll stay with what is familiar many times. And the children of Israel actually was like, why don't I just stay here? Some of you are like, well, what is the point of even existing? What is the point of life? Let me tell you that you do have purpose. There is a point, and your pain is not in vain. As cliche as that sounds, until you unlock or understand the purpose, we'll only see the pain, and that can keep us stuck. So sometimes we even trauma bond. You went through some trauma, some significant trauma with certain people in your life, and it's not a bad thing to talk about it together and relate to it. However, if you're not allowing yourself to be rescued, when I say that, I mean, if you're not allowing yourself to receive help, I may end up just trauma bonding and remain broken and in bondage. Okay. So it's meant for you to move forward. Hurt people bleed, y'all. Even when you think of a nurse, a doctor is meant to help you with the ailment or the illness that you're experiencing so that you can progress. So even them, they know their expertise. They put gloves on when they're drawing blood or they're doing lab work so that they can help with your healing and not get infected by it. Right? They want to focus on your healing. So that's what like hiring a coach is, or a therapist. Sometimes we can be so skeptical that we're sophisticatedly stubborn, that we rationalize, you know what, I'm not even gonna invest in my healing. They just want my money. I'm not gonna get this book because you know what, I don't even know if it's gonna help. So many times our own perspective can block our breakthrough, that we end up sticking with people that end up bleeding on us because they're not healed and they're still wounded. But the person that you converse with is not only supposed to empathize and understand, but they're supposed to help you move forward. Exactly. So many of us are, you said that's why they created social media, artificial emotional healing. Exactly, because many times we want that quick result. So we're going after that goal, but then we don't get it and we give up because we have a microwave mindset. But transformation is a process that takes work, that we actually need to connect to someone that's not going to trauma bond with us, but it's going to help us get out of bondage, and they do it with us. So that way we're not alone, because sometimes we even tell ourselves the same story, that nobody cares. I'm all alone. I'm all forgotten, because it's a story that was a real experience. It came from a real experience. Exactly. So that even the enemy wants you to be separated from the very places that are meant to elevate you, because separation does necessitate elevation, or the byproduct of separation is elevation. And so many times we actually need to separate for certain mindsets or certain people that may project their pain onto us, or we project our pain onto them. And we need to separate from that so that we can elevate. There are seasons where we're supposed to be like that butterfly effect in a cocoon and separated, but also connected to the right people so that we can have right alignment. Okay? So that being said, there's also a thief, y'all, who comes not but to steal, kill, and destroy. And he wants us to be stuck in a certain program. There's a certain, just like every computers have a programming, but once it's infected with a virus, it's going to impact how the apps work. So there's all this dysfunction on the inside that unless we allow for development on the inside, we won't heal. So we remain stuck. So it's time for a reboot. It's time for a renewing in your mind and a reprogramming of your mind, which is understanding your purpose outside of the pain, so that we're not just comfortably, right? Staying in our comfort zone is many times where we want to be, because we fear the rejection, just like you were talking about competition and hatred online. We fear what people might say. So many times we want to then save ourselves from that, but we end up stifling ourselves. So we stay stuck, because we put more weight on people's words, who are hurting people, transmitting pain, instead of plugging into the one who knows you best and prioritizing God's words in our lives, which carry the most weight, because his word doesn't return void. So if there's void on the inside of you, it just means that you need to be integrated into his word and meditate on his word, because we're going to meditate on something. And whatever we meditate on can be miraculous, that we end up doing things that we never thought we'd do. That the people that thought they knew you from second grade, from third grade, the family members who thought they knew you, maybe they spoke negative things about you. They said negative things. You were told that you were ugly, or that you would never make it, or you just like your father, you just like your mother, you just like this and just like that. But even if you exemplify certain behavior at that time, it doesn't mean that you have to stay there. That there is a real version of you that is waiting to rise up and is waiting on new revelation of who you actually are, so that you can get back up again and start walking. Because it is time to exit, y'all. It's time to exit. So God knows us best, but sometimes we're upset with God. We're angry with God. Why are we angry with God? When we look at Ecclesiastes chapter 3, it says again, to every season, there's also a time. And the main part that I even wanted to look at, because I don't have time to break it all down today, but it says there is a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. So we know that a part of the human experience is not only birth, but it's death. And y'all, when I tell you, when we lose somebody that we loved, that is one of the most painful experiences that any of us can go through. And sometimes we don't realize, because we don't realize how much our anchor was in that person until they leave. Say you experienced so much trauma in your childhood, and that was the one person, that was maybe a spouse that died, that passed away. Maybe it was a grandparent. Maybe it was a parent, a sibling that passed away, a friend that passed away. And even the conversation may be triggering because it hurts, it sparks something. But until we deal with what we've compartmentalized, it will remain trapped in you. So whatever is remained trapped in you, it has a stronghold on you that can hold you back. But it's time to break free of that thing. So sometimes it is the very person that understood us the best, that we felt safe with, that one person, that even though all these other people misunderstood you, they understood you. They were kind to you. That when they leave, we're crippled by that thing. We're crippled by the passing. We're crippled by the passing of our loved one. That we may not even know how much our anchor was in that person until they leave, and we don't even know what to do. That we are in need of direction. That is one of the most significant pains, I'd say even traumas, that anybody can experience, that leads them to be stuck. So you need to make sure that because there's a time to be born and there's a time for people to pass away. We got to make sure we give ourselves the space and the time to actually grieve, and not hyper spiritualize your mental health or your emotional health. That in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. There isn't safety in you just trying to solve it yourself or figure it out, or just saying, you know what, I'll be okay. And yes, the reality is you'll be okay. But if some of you experience so much turmoil and you say, I'll be okay, but you know that you're not dealing with what's on the inside. And as long as we just distract ourselves from what's on the inside, we won't heal what's on the inside. And how we show up and on the inside is how we show up in other places. That it can be hard to even connect with somebody new. Or the pain takes up more space in our perspective. That sometimes we actually, and when someone passes away, we experience such trauma. We become angry with God even. We become angry with God. And then we become adults, right, who blame God, and we say, you know what, God doesn't even exist. So we may become atheists or agnostic, or just Christians who are angry with God. And we say maybe God is not real. But we underestimate the power of free will and, human choice, and how evil does happen in this world. And we forget that there's also an invisible threat called the devil. The devil is also real. And when he wants you destroyed, it is through deception and disconnection from God, because when you're disconnected from God, we don't hear his voice and we won't know how to pivot. We won't know how to develop a new practice or a new meditation, new revelation that is going to aid in our faith. So we end up being driven by fear of abandonment, that we may develop our own idols. Because the thing is, you're going to surrender to something. We're going to look for comfort when we experience pain. There's no person that's not going to want some sort of comfort, that we end up focusing on what is in our control. That we look for comfort maybe in sex, in drugs and alcohol. So that becomes our new God. But it's also something that is going to destroy your becoming, the greatness that you're meant to come, the fabulous person that you're meant to become. Because that alcohol is not going to talk to you. The blunt, the marijuana, the drugs, it's not going to talk back to you. But it will only stifle you. So the reality is, if God was real to you in your childhood, he's real now, even if you think he's not, or if you think he doesn't see you or hear you, but he does. That the enemy wants you disconnected from him. If I'm going to acknowledge that God is real, and sometimes we're angry at God, I got to also acknowledge that the devil is real too. And even if God was real in your childhood, again, he's real now. So anger, say you're angry with God. Anger becomes the shut down emotion. And what is anger? It is something hurtful happened to you that we hold on to it, and it weighs us down. It weighs us down. It is heavy. So it shows up like a depression. And some of us function still even being depressed. So it's a heavy weight that can weigh you down. What is the antidote to anger? And what you're holding on to? Releasing. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is releasing what you're holding on to. So if God was real in your childhood, you need to forgive the God of your childhood. Just like you can remember that bully and from second grade. And I'm not comparing God to a bully, y'all. I'm just making an example. You can remember the person that hurt you in second grade. You become angry with them. And maybe as an adult, you don't think about them, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist. They exist. They're real, right? So as a starting point, if God was real in your childhood and you're stuck now, maybe you have free will, right? You've left your childhood home, but some of you are still stuck. You got to ask yourself, why am I stuck? And if my way isn't working, let me tell you that Jesus is the way, he is the truth, and he is the life. So there is a truth that you are in need of, that you need to know so that you can be free. There's a revelation that you are in need of so your real self can rise up. So if God was real in your childhood, I say forgive the God of your childhood and you will become unstuck now. If God was real in your childhood and you're angry with him and you question his existence, it means that, again, you're acknowledging that he was real then. You need to forgive the God of your childhood. Not because I'm saying he's even wrong. I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm saying that it's a starting point where you can begin shifting out of pain, because that's where you became stuck. For some of you, someone left you, someone betrayed you, and you became stuck there. And so that means that forgiveness is key to releasing. Understanding who you are beyond the pain is key to making progress and taking even one step or two steps, y'all. That's key. So it's time for an exit. I just want y'all to comment, it is time for my exit. I encourage you to connect, because we need new connections. The thing is, y'all, there is counsel that we can receive from someone who is unhealed. So how is it even going to help? Maybe they can relate, but they're stuck as well. And so it's not about being better than that person, but realizing that there is better for you, that it just requires a new connection and just pushing past the skepticism or knowing it all. Maybe we don't know it all. And I'm not saying we ever will know it all. But I know God knows it all, and he knows you. Okay? And this was a divine intervention to be the anchor that you actually need and the rescue that you need. So sometimes we just need to be open to even receiving help that we need. I want to invite you, y'all, to connect. The links are below. If you are a woman who wants to join the Courageous Christian Women's Facebook group, the link is below, y'all. I invite you to connect with women who want to understand who they truly are in Christ. When you know the truth, it makes you free. That means that there's bondage, there's something floating in there that needs to be released. And we need help with that. Also, I have a free masterclass coming up September 25th. The link is below, y'all. All right, I invite you to like, share, subscribe, invite somebody to the Facebook group. Blessings. Hey, Deborah. Thank you so much for tuning in, y'all. Make sure you watch the replay. All right, y'all. There's a time for everything. And now is your time to exit so that you can step in to the promises and the positions and the promotions and the places that God has for you by understanding who you are, the person that you are in Jesus Christ, and not in solely the pain, but the purpose. All right, y'all, take care. Bye, y'all.